Morning, welcome to Father and Son. As you can see, it's just Son today. I'm Tom Elliott, and well, here's my view on some of the big issues of the week. Now, firstly, the backflip in federal parliament this week over asylum seekers was nothing short of amazing. Now, obviously, the opposition under Tony Abbott is making a lot of hay about this while the sun shines, but really, you've got to say how Julia Gillard, how she can even face her own caucus, let alone the people of Australia, having said time and time again they would never reopen detention centres in Nauru or Manus Island. Well, that's exactly what they've done. In fact, they have pretty much reintroduced the Howard government's asylum seeker policies, which is, of course, offshore detention. This was done as a result of the independent committee that was appointed, and that committee concluded that essentially the Howard government's policies were the correct policies. So, who knows what other promise could be broken? Maybe the carbon tax, that's all coming up. Of course, Tony Abbott's been having a wonderful time telling all and sundry, we were right, we were right, we were right. It is a most unedifying spectacle in federal parliament. And from this, I think it's worth looking back to the Tampa incident back in 2001. Back then, John Howard said, we will decide who comes into this country, and he was rewarded at the ballot box by voters. Kim Beazley sort of tried to go along with it, but the fact is this, if people are confronted, voters, with two parties with essentially the same policy, they will pick the party that they believe fundamentally backs the policy. And you know, when it comes to asylum seekers, essentially it is the coalition that has the firm policy that's needed, not the Labor Party, however much they might say now that they've changed their mind. So another brutal week for Julia Gillard in federal parliament. You'd have to think that the hard men, the faceless men of the Labor Party will be looking at doing the numbers for a potential replacement in the next few months. Also here in Victoria, Tattersalls has done two terrible things to our state this week. Firstly, it's decided to move its head office up to Queensland. And Campbell Newman, the Premier of Queensland, was all smiles when he said that he didn't wish his compatriot Ted Baillieu any ill will, but the fact is more of Tattersalls' business is now in Queensland. But secondly, then Tattersalls, having decided to move its head office, launched a $500 million legal claim against the Victorian government. Now, of course, this relates to the decision by former Premier John Brumby, who back in 2008 decided to strip both Tattersalls and Tabcorp of their pokies licences here in Victoria. Both companies said at the time that they felt they were owed compensation for the hundreds of millions of dollars they'd put into those businesses, and now that bill for compensation could well come due. It's interesting to note that in the last state budget, the potential liability for this compensation was there in the budget papers as a contingent liability. Ted Baillieu has come out and said that they will vigorously defend it, and we're yet to find out the legal position of Tabcorp, who still has substantial businesses in Victoria and may or may not want to launch a legal action against the Victorian government. Anyway, you look at it, it may not be good for the taxpayers of this state, because ultimately we're the ones who will have to stump up, firstly for just the cost of the legal action, and secondly for any compensation which flows from it. Also on legal actions at the moment, the government had a rare win. The High Court has upheld its plain packaging legislation, so if you're a smoker like my father, pretty soon you'll get all your cigarettes in one packet, irrespective of the brand they're in. I mean, really, look, already you can't advertise cigarettes anywhere. Even in a shop, they can't be displayed. They have to be behind a locked cabinet. I have to say that within 5 or 10 years, I just think smoking will be banned overall, because it's just inching towards that. It's banned in any public spaces near buildings. It's banned by the government, any government-owned premises. Sporting facilities usually ban it within their environs. So you've got to say that apart from the privacy of your own home, it's going to be very, very difficult to smoke in the next few years. And here in Melbourne, of course, and in New South Wales with the NRL and Queensland with the NRL, but here in Melbourne it's all footy finals. And we have a very interesting spectacle this year, because you've got 3 teams outside the 8, being sort of Fremantle, St Kilda and Carlton, all of whom can make it. Essendon's just in the 8, and we've got some fascinating games coming up this weekend. Richmond is playing Fremantle. The Tigers are backing themselves to knock Freo off. Carlton is playing Essendon. Carlton has to win its last 3 games to have any chance of making the 8. And Carlton also plays St Kilda in the very last round, so assuming they beat Essendon and next week Gold Coast, there's a chance, but only a slim chance, that they'll make the finals. Again, if you're a Carlton supporter, if we don't make the finals, it'll be the first time in the last few years we haven't improved upon our position from one season to the next. And of course, that will make the job of current coach Brett Ratton not untenable, but it could make his life difficult. He has one more year to run on his contract, but who knows? The Carlton board historically has come down very heavily on coaches who it is perceived to have underperformed. Good news for Carlton supporters this week that Captain Chris Judd returns from a 4-week suspension, and he will no doubt be raring to go against the Bombers. All right, that's it for this week. A lot's going on at the moment in federal politics in the state of Victoria and around the country when it comes to sport. I'll look forward to your company, same time next week.